It was Kayla's voice. That specific brand of sweet she only pulled out when she wanted something. Sunlight pooled on the hardwood. My husband, Daniel, was out walking our dog. Peace, I should have said no. What kind of favor? I asked, already regretting it. Kayla exhaled dramatically, the one with the cute underbite. I hesitated. Kayla, I don't think it's just for 3 days, she cut in. I'll drop him off tonight. Always meant reliable, predictable. The one to catch the mess, I guess. Fine, I muttered. Yay, you're a lifesaver. I owe you big time. She didn't. That night, she pulled into our driveway with her usual chaos-overpacked car. Loud music, glitter on her sleeves. She hugged me like we hadn't spoken 2 days ago and shoved a duffel bag into my arms. His leash is in there, and his meds. Benny leaped from the back seat like a furry missile. 3 days, I reminded. 3 days, she said with crossed fingers and a wink. I watched her car disappear down the street and felt an old familiar weight settle in my chest. He barked at his own reflection in the oven door, refused to pee outside unless someone sang to him, and growled every time the washing machine beeped. This isn't a dog, Daniel muttered. It's a war criminal with fur. He'll be gone tomorrow, I said. But Kayla didn't show up. No call, no text. Voicemail full. Socials inactive. I told myself it was the retreat. No phones, no drama. But on the 3rd day, something changed. Benny wouldn't stop clawing at his collar. I noticed it that morning while making coffee. He was digging at it with his paws, whimpering, twisting his neck like it itched from the inside. Stop it, Benny, I said gently, kneeling down. Let me see. The collar looked wrong, too tight. The stitching along the edge was uneven, almost like it had been resewn by hand. Just solid leather stitched shut with black thread. What? Look at this collar, it's sealed. He examined it, eyes narrowing. Who seals a dog collar shut? Together, we used kitchen scissors to snip the threads. It took effort. Whatever had closed it had been done deliberately, tightly. As the final thread gave way, something dropped onto the floor with a soft clink. A micro SD card. We froze. I picked it up with trembling fingers. It was barely the size of my pinky nail. Embedded in the leather was also a tiny folded paper. Daniel opened it carefully. 3 names, 3 addresses, all out of state. What is this? I whispered. I don't know, he said, voice low. But I think we need to find out. That evening, the doorbell rang. It was just past 7. Daniel had gone to the store. Benny was curled at my feet. I opened the door thinking it was a delivery. 2 men stood outside. Dark suits, clean shoes, no smiles. One flashed a badge. Miss Thompson. Yes, we're with the Bureau of Federal Investigation. We'd like to ask you a few questions. About the animal in your possession. My hand tightened on the doorknob. May we come in? My mouth opened, but I didn't answer. Behind me, Benny barked twice, then sat perfectly still, as if he knew what the badge meant. The 2 agents stepped into the hallway like they owned the air between us. May we take a look at the dog? He asked. No smile, no warmth. Something about their presence seemed to scare him more than usual. My throat felt dry. Why? What's going on? The taller agent crouched, extending a hand. Or rather, something that doesn't belong to you. I froze. The micro SD card in my pocket felt like a burning coal. Did they know? My fingers brushed against it. Daniel wasn't home yet. It was just me. I don't understand, I said. The agent stood, adjusting his tie with precision. We can explain everything. But first, we need to know if the animal came into your care recently. My voice cracked. Yes, my sister left him here. Just for a few days. Why? He tilted his head, almost like he was measuring my heartbeat. Where is your sister now? I don't know, I admitted. She's not answering her phone. He exchanged a look with his partner, a glance that said more than words. Then he nodded toward Benny. May we inspect the caller? Don't hurt him, I said, more forcefully than I meant to. We're not here to hurt anyone, the taller one replied calmly. But there's something about this animal that requires our attention. Please, Miss Thompson, cooperate. Daniel walked in seconds later, grocery bags in hand. He stopped dead at the sight of the two men in suits. What the hell is going on there? Daniel set the bags down and stepped closer, his jaw tightening. Why, sir? The agent said. It's better if we discuss this in private. Daniel crossed his arms, his expression hardening. If you want to touch my wife's dog, you'd better start explaining. The explanation they gave was vague. Something about a shipment of encrypted data being transported across state lines, I asked, trying to wrap my head around it. Encrypted information, the agent clarified, hidden in unconventional carriers. A dog collar, for example. Daniel looked at me, then back at them. Are you seriously telling me someone is hiding files in our dog's collar? When they left, they didn't take Benny. They just left a card with a direct number, saying, if your sister contacts you, call us immediately. Do not, under any circumstances, tamper with the device you found. Device? They didn't say card. They said device. I swallowed hard, because we had already tampered with it. That night, Daniel sat at the table, tapping his finger on the card. You're not seriously thinking about calling them, are you? I asked. I don't trust them, he said flatly. But I trust your sister even less. Whatever's on that card, he paused. We need to see it. I bit my lip, and if it's illegal, then at least we'll know why federal agents are knocking on our door. We plugged the micro SD card into Daniel's old laptop. For a moment, nothing. Just a blank folder with the word locked in all caps. Daniel frowned. Looks encrypted. I'll try a bypass. Do you even know how to? A window popped up. Password required. I stared at the screen. What if it's something we're not supposed to see? Daniel leaned closer. You're asking the wrong question. I hesitated, but something in me wanted answers. So we tried obvious passwords: Kayla's birthday, her old email, even the name of her dog. On the fifth try, the screen blinked and a folder opened. Inside were images. Others had mine. My stomach turned. Oh my God. Daniel clicked another Fila spreadsheet with shipping addresses. Same 3 addresses from the paper. And next to one of them, a label. Lena, final drop. What the hell does final drop mean? I whispered. Daniel looked at me, his face pale. I don't think we're supposed to find out. At that exact moment, Benny began barking, loud, sharp, frantic. I rushed to the window. 2 unmarked vans were parked across the street, the same ones I'd seen earlier. This time, the lights inside were off, but I could swear someone was watching our house. Daniel, I said, my voice barely a whisper, what if they're not just watching the dog? The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my untouched coffee. Benny lay curled up near the fridge, finally asleep after a night of nervous pacing. I hadn't slept, not really. Daniel hovered by the window, shifting the curtain just enough to peek outside without drawing attention. They're still there, he murmured. Of course they were. The vans hadn't moved. They were planted like trees, silent, watchful, pretending not to exist. But they were watching us, me. The spreadsheet still haunted me. My name next to final drop. What did that even mean? I pulled my phone closer and opened Kayla's messages, scrolling back months. She hadn't said anything about a business. No hints, no warnings. Just memes, voice notes with bad karaoke, and the occasional "can you spot me $100 just until Friday," which always turned into "until next month." She had played it so well. Lena, Daniel said quietly. We need to tell them. I looked up. Tell who? The FBI. They told us not to access the device. We did. And what if that was a test? We can't trust them, Daniel. But we also can't trust her. My voice cracked. He came closer, placed a hand on my shoulder. When did it get like this? I stared down at my reflection in the coffee. I think it was always like this. I was 10 when I first took the blame for something I didn't do. But when Mom stormed in demanding answers, Kayla burst into tears, finger pointed like a dagger. Lena did it. She didn't even look at me. No explanation. No hesitation. Just accusation. And I didn't defend myself. Not because I was noble, but because I already knew what would happen. Mom's sigh was sharp. Lena, you're the older one. You should know better. I got grounded. Kayla got a popsicle. Lesson learned. Crying buys you grace. Silence buys you blame. It never changed. By high school, Kayla had become untouchable. She crashed Dad's car once, sneaking out to meet a boy. Told our parents I let her borrow it. I had been asleep. They didn't care. She wouldn't lie about something so serious, Dad had said. You need to support her, Lena. Dad grounded me for not noticing sooner. By then, I had learned my role. The fixer, the responsible one, the shield. Even in college, it followed me. Kayla started selling handmade bath bombs online, Nat least. That's what she said. After a few months, she called me crying. Lena, my payment system is blocked. Can I use your name for now, just until I figure it out? I said no, and for the first time, she didn't cry. Inside, no greeting. Just one sentence. If you can't help your own sister, what kind of person are you? That was when the silence began. No calls, no messages, no invitations to birthdays or holidays, not even a Happy New Year text. And I told myself it was fine, because boundaries were better than betrayal. But now I was looking at a spreadsheet with my name forged into it, tied to 3 addresses I'd never seen, with photos of IDs I never approved. How deep did it go? I opened my email, searched for my name in the sent folder. There were messages I didn't remember sending, requests to suppliers, order confirmations, business invoices, all from a copycat email. lenathompson.designs@protonmail.com. I felt sick. Daniel came over and sat beside me. She used your identity, didn't she? She's been using it, I whispered, for months, maybe longer. He rubbed his temples. And your parents? I laughed bitterly. They probably knew, or they didn't care. Same thing. I picked up the phone and called Mom. She answered after the second ring. Lena, her voice was syrupy, uncertain. Where's Kayla? Silence. Why are federal agents watching my house, Mom? Still nothing. I could hear the TV in the background, a spoon clinking against a teacup. I asked you a question, I said, sharper now. Her voice came back, softer. She said she needed to ship a few things. We thought it was just temporary. You let her use my name. She said you agreed. I said no. She paused. She was crying. Of course she was. Do you even know what she's doing? Just whispered. You're stronger than her, Lena. You'll bounce back. I laughed. Hollow, cold. That's exactly why she picked me. Daniel stood tense. We need to talk to a lawyer. Before I could answer, the landline rang. Not my cell. The old phone on the kitchen wall we never use. Only Kayla and our parents have that number. I picked up no hello. Just Kayla's voice, sharp, breathless. Lena, I need you to do something for me. It had that urgent edge I knew too well, the kind she used when she was cornered. I didn't respond. Just stood there, clutching the phone so tightly I could hear the plastic creak beneath my fingers. Are you there? She asked. I'm here, I said. Where are you? I can't say. But I'm safe. Are you? I asked. Because there are 2 black vans outside my house and federal agents going through my email. They say I'm part of a criminal network, your network. She sighed. Not the kind that says I'm sorry. The kind that says you're making this harder than it needs to be. Lena, she said slowly, I never meant for this to touch you. Then why did you use my name? You said no, she said quickly, and I respected that. But it was just for the shipping label. Then you're either lying or you're dumber than I thought. There was a long pause. Then, with the thinnest thread of sincerity, I messed up. I let that hang in the air between us like smoke. Lena, listen, no, absolutely not. She shifted into a different tone then, one I knew from every childhood fight, every guilt-laced manipulation. And now you're surprised I didn't go along with it? Silence, then soft and venomous. Maybe you've always wanted to see me fail. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She hung up. Daniel was already standing in the doorway when I turned around. You heard? He nodded. She wants you to destroy evidence. I nodded back, numb, which means it's worse than we thought. By noon, we were in a lawyer's office. Daniel had called a friend from college who specialized in federal investigations. The guy Wes was calm, sharp, and didn't blink much. He asked for everything: emails, the spreadsheet, the names, even Benny's collar. When I handed over the micro SD card, I could feel the heat radiating from it like a live wire. Legally, that ties you to everything unless we prove otherwise. She used an old signature of yours, Daniel added, probably from when she borrowed Lena's old tax forms years ago. Wes nodded slowly. That makes sense. This level of fraud is rarely spontaneous, it's methodical. Someone had to build this framework over time. And my parents helped her, I added, voice low. He blinked once. We'll deal with them after. Right now, we need to establish a clear timeline, and more importantly, intent. No landline. He looked disappointed, but not surprised. If she calls again, put her on speaker. Let me listen. When we returned home that evening, the vans were gone. For the first time in days, the street looked normal, quiet. That scared me more than the surveillance. She's going to try again, I said. Then let her. An hour later, the phone buzzed. This time, my cell, unknown number. Daniel hit record on a second phone, I answered. Lena Kayla's voice rushed out. I'm sorry, I panicked. I didn't mean to snap. I need your help, please. Too late, please. Listen, I know I messed up, but if that file gets opened by the wrong person. I sat forward, cold sweat forming down my back. What does that mean? There's a reason I used your name, she whispered. It wasn't just convenience. They told me to. Daniel leaned in. I could feel his pulse racing through the couch cushion between us. Who's they, Kayla? She hesitated. Then, barely audible. They called themselves clients, but they're not. They're something else. The line went dead. I looked down at the phone, heart hammering. What the hell is she involved in? Daniel asked, barely above a whisper. I didn't answer, because I had a feeling we were just scratching the surface. And Kayla had stopped being afraid of prison. Now she was afraid of something worse. The next morning, I woke up before the sun, not because of a noise or a dream, just awake. Eyes open, heart racing, brain already in overdrive. My body knew something was coming before I did. I sat in the kitchen with a blanket around my shoulders, watching the kettle boil. I didn't want tea. I just needed the sound. Something real, something normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Daniel walked in minutes later, hair a mess, his shirt on, inside out. You okay? I shook my head. No, but I'm used to it. He didn't push, just sat across from me, waiting. I placed my phone on the table between us, like it might bite. I opened my email again, scrolling through more messages I never wrote. Requests for international shipping rates. Follow-ups with encrypted communication platforms. A chain of logistics that had my name on every document but none of my fingerprints. One message stood out, dated 7 months ago, sent to a supplier in Singapore. Thanks again for your discretion. As always, I trust you'll handle this without delay. Lena. The message was signed with my full name. My email even included a scan of my ID. My stomach twisted. She didn't just use me, she became me. Daniel leaned over my shoulder. Can we trace where these were sent from? Already tried, I said. The headers are masked. She used a VPN, or someone did. He looked at me carefully. You think she had help? I nodded. There's no way Kayla figured this out alone. She barely knows how to update her phone. Daniel sighed. So who's behind it? I closed my eyes. The people she called clients. Later that day, Wes called back. He sounded more serious than usual. We found something, he said. Your sister filed for a limited partnership business under your name 3 months ago. What kind of business? He hesitated. It claims to be an import-export agency for fine art and cultural assets. Of course it does. She listed you as the majority partner and point of contact, meaning on paper you're in charge. She's not even on the official paperwork. My blood ran cold. She set me up from the start. It looks that way. Daniel paced behind me, clenching his fists. Is there any way to prove Lena didn't know about this? We're working on it, Wes said. After the call, I walked outside to get air. Our street was quiet. Kids playing 2 houses down. A neighbor walking her dog. It all felt staged, like background noise in a nightmare. Then I saw the envelope, tucked under the edge of the doormat. No stamp, no address, just my name, scrawled in blue pen. I looked around, no one nearby. I picked it up and opened it with trembling hands. Inside, a single photo, me and Kayla 10 years ago at the lake. She's smiling. I'm looking at her mid-laugh. On the back, she trusted you once. Don't fail her again. There was no signature, no instructions, nothing else. I showed it to Wes. He zoomed in on the handwriting. Definitely not hers. Then who? I don't know. But this is a threat. They're trying to manipulate her. They're trying to see if I'll fold, I corrected. Wes nodded. You need to make a choice, Lena. Either you go all in with us, every detail, every contact, every memory that might help us map this out, or you stay quiet and they control the narrative. I looked down at the photo again. For a second, I saw the version of Kayla I used to believe in. The one who cried when she scraped her knee and ran to me instead of Mom. But that girl didn't exist anymore. Or maybe she never did. I turned my head slowly. Then I go down clean. He didn't speak, just reached out and took my hand. At 3:14 a.m., the phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. No words, just a link. I stared at it, heart pounding. Daniel sat up beside me. What is it? I clicked. A new folder opened. Video files. Dozens of them, all labeled with dates and initials. Some had mine, others had Kayla's, and others had names I didn't recognize at all. But the last one, it was a live feed. A dark room, a woman tied to a chair. Kayla, her mouth gagged, her eyes wide. And then, just below the video, deliver the package, or she disappears. I couldn't stop staring at the screen. Kayla bound to a chair, the light above her flickering like some cruel theatrical spotlight. Her face was bruised just enough to provoke fear, not pity. Her eyes darted side to side, scanning the room as if she could somehow see me. The live feed had no sound, but just that eerie silence that hums louder than noise. Daniel stood behind me. Lena, this could be fake. I wanted it to be. God, I wanted it to be. But then Kayla looked straight into the camera, dead on, like she knew where the lens was, like she knew I was watching. Her lips moved under the gag. Just one word. Please. I forwarded the link to Wes. 10 seconds later, he called. Don't respond. Don't click anything else. This changes everything. He started explaining protocols and digital forensics, but my head was already spinning. Wes, I cut him off. They're threatening to kill her. Yes, he said bluntly, and they want you to move first. Daniel grabbed the phone. What do? We stall, Wes replied. Let me work. Whatever package they want. We need to know what it is and who it's for before you even think about touching it. but the clock had already started ticking. By noon, another message came through. This time, no video, just text. You have 24 hours or we go silent. Forever. Daniel paced the room like a storm contained in skin. They're bluffing. They want control. I don't think they're bluffing, I whispered. I went into the garage. There, buried behind Daniel's old camping gear, was the box, the real package. I hadn't touched it since the day Kayla dropped off Benny, not the collar, the actual shipment. A small matte black case tucked inside Benny's duffel bag. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, just assumed it was dog food or supplements or some expensive holistic treat she always claimed to use. I pulled it out now. It was heavier than I remembered. I opened it slowly. Inside, 3 velvet pouches, and under them a slim compartment sealed with biometric tape. I didn't dare touch it. I showed Daniel. "What do you think's in there?" he asked. I shook my head. If it's valuable enough to kidnap her over, it's not just documents. He crouched down and looked closer. "This one's labeled in Arabic." He read it out loud. I blinked. "You speak Arabic?" "A little, enough to get us in trouble." We photographed everything and sent it to Wes. An hour later, he called, his voice 10 shades more serious than usual. "Lena, I need you to sit down." Daniel and I exchanged glances. "I didn't sit that artifact in the second pouch. It's not just valuable. It's missing, from a museum in Cairo, stolen last year during a political riot." I clutched the phone. "Kayla stole it." "Doubtful. But someone used her Hughes U to move it. And the biometric compartment, we're still decrypting. But if it contains what we think it does, Lena, you're sitting on a black market deal involving multiple countries, possibly even arms trade." Daniel ran a hand down his face. "This just keeps getting better." Wes didn't laugh. "They think you're involved, deeply. And now, with this ransom video, they're trying to leverage you as either the scapegoat or the mule." Later that night, I couldn't eat, couldn't speak. Just sat at the table, staring at the timer I'd set. 24 hours, counting down. I looked at Daniel. "What would you do?" He didn't hesitate. "I'd let her go." "What?" "She got herself into this. She pulled you in. She risked our lives. And she's not a kid anymore. She's 32, she's my sister, and you're my wife." That silence returned. That same hollow sound that followed me after every Caleb betrayal. The silence of duty, of guilt, of not being able to let go, even when you should. At 3 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house in the dark. Everything looked the same, and yet, not. The one Kayla had once hidden in after shattering Mom's glass centerpiece and blaming me. I'd been 9, she'd been 6. She cried so hard back then, claimed it was an accident, that she didn't know it would break. I took the blame. Mom grounded me for 2 weeks. Kayla got dessert early. That was the first time she used me, and I let her. I always let her. I leaned against the wall, chest tightening. What if that was the pattern I never broke? What if this was just the grown-up version of the same game? At sunrise, I stood in the garage again, staring at the case. I could deliver it. Leave it at the drop point. Walk away. Kayla might live. But what else would die? My freedom, my marriage, my name. I opened my phone. The live feed was still running, still silent. Kayla hadn't moved. Her eyes fluttered open and shut, barely conscious. My fingers hovered over the screen. Would I be the villain for letting her fall, or the fool for saving her again? At 6:07 a.m., I made the call, not to the number in the message, not to the ghost account that had sent the threat. I called Wes. His voice was groggy but alert. "Lena, I'm ready," I said, "but not to run. I'm ready to burn it all." There was a pause. Then, "Tell me everything." By noon, Wes had secured a safe location. Not a police station, not a government office. Something quieter, off-grid neutral ground. They called it a quiet room. No Wi-Fi, no cameras, no windows. I brought the case. Daniel insisted on driving. We didn't speak the entire ride. Wes and 2 other agents met us in a brick building that looked like a gutted medical clinic. He didn't waste time. "We've been monitoring the group that sent you the feed," he said. "They're a front, a shell, one layer in a network designed to move stolen artifacts, weapons, and encrypted intelligence through people who don't even know they're couriers." My throat tightened. Kayla knew. "Yes," Wes said, "but not from the beginning." She was approached by a man calling himself Zane. Said he was a dealer in art and spirituality. He offered her money, freedom, praise. I laughed bitterly. She always wanted to be seen. She wasn't supposed to involve you. That was her decision. But they let her. He nodded. They didn't care how it moved, just that it moved. Once she used your name, it gave them a cleaner path. A woman with no record. Stable, trustworthy, boring, I added. Exactly. They played audio clips for intercepts from the group. I heard Kayla's voice, light and naive at first. "She won't mind. She's my sister. She's always been the stable one." Later, the tone changed. "They're asking questions. If she finds out, she'll ruin it. Then she doesn't need to know. I'll keep her out of it. Just one more shipment." And then the last clip. The one that didn't sound like her at all. "If she talks, she's expendable. You do what you need to do." I stared at the floor. My ears buzzed. "She said that?" I asked. Wes didn't answer right away. She was scared, desperate. She chose them over me. He didn't deny it. Daniel sat beside me, unmoving. I could feel the way he was holding his breath. Wes stood and turned to the agents. "Get me the encryption log. We'll start building the case now." One of the agents hesitated. "There's more. You should see this." They pulled up an intercepted internal message from the group's network. A name was highlighted in red. Lena Thompson, inactive asset. Activate if failover occurs. "What does that mean?" Daniel asked. Wes was already translating out loud. "It means if Kayla couldn't finish the drop, they were going to force you to." They never cared about Kayla. Not really. She was a tool, but I was the insurance. The clean name, the final resort, the failover. That night, Wes gave me a burner phone. "No contact with your family," he said. "From here on, you're a witness, a target. I want to help." "No," I said. "You don't understand. I need to be the one who ends this." At home, I sat on the kitchen floor. Benny curled next to me, resting his head on my lap like none of this had ever happened. Daniel leaned against the fridge, watching me. "She chose them," he said. I nodded. She always chose them, even when they hurt her. She didn't believe you'd walk away. I didn't either. At 2:31 a.m., the feed went live again. Kayla, same chair, new bruises, eyes swollen from crying. She whispered something under the gag. I turned up the brightness, zoomed in. 2 words, mouthed slowly, "Help me." Then the screen went black. I stared at the blank screen for a long time. I didn't cry. I just stood up, opened the case, and stared at its contents. The next morning, I called Wes. "Tell me where to go," I said. "I'll deliver it, but I'd do it my way." The sky was still dark when I left. No goodbye, no note. Just Daniel's steady breathing in the bedroom and Benny curled on my blanket at the foot of the bed. I closed the door gently, like I was sneaking out of my own life. The burner phone vibrated in my pocket. DROP location, 34.2017N, 118.2440. W arrive alone. Downtown LA, of course. I drove. Daniel's car registered in my name. No GPS, no phone. Just the case in the trunk, silent and deadly like a ticking confession. Wes's team was nearby, tracking me from unmarked vans. They promised to stay out unless things turned hostile. They would The location was an abandoned textile warehouse, tagged with graffiti and silence. I parked down the street and walked in. I wasn't afraid. I'd already buried the girl who would have cried. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and old fabric. Rusted beams stretched overhead like a skeletal cage. A figure stepped forward. Not Zane. Not anyone I recognized. Just a man in a suit that didn't fit quite right. "You brought it," he said. "Where is she?" "She's alive for now. I want to see her." He gestured to the back. A curtained-off area. I moved slowly. No sudden movements. Behind the curtain, Kayla sat slumped in the chair. Her wrists red and raw, face bruised but alive. Her eyes met mine bloodshot and ashamed. "Lena," she whispered. I didn't speak. I just turned to the man. "Let her go. Take the case. And we never see each other again." He laughed. "You think this ends today?" He stepped closer. "You were the real asset all along. She was just the delivery system." "That system's broken," I said. "And I don't work for anyone." From outside, tires screeched. Sirens. The man's face changed just for a second. Then rage. "You brought them." "No," I said calmly. "They followed me." That's what happens when you bait the wrong sister. Chaos broke. The warehouse doors burst open. Agents poured in, shouting, guns drawn. The man pulled a knife, lunged. I ducked instinctively. A shot rang out. He dropped before he reached me. Everything after was a blur. Kayla screaming, hands on my shoulders, a voice yelling clear, radios chirping codes I didn't understand. "Wes found me first. You okay?" I nodded. "Where's the case?" "Secured." Kayla was taken into custody separately. She didn't fight it, didn't speak, just looked at me with a strange mix of shame and gratitude. I didn't look back. Days later, I read the report. The organization was part of an international ring. Kayla had unknowingly worked for them for months before realizing what she was moving. By then, it was too late. She pled guilty to multiple charges but was offered reduced sentencing for cooperation. Wes called to let me know. "She probably serve a few years." I said nothing. "Your name is clear," he added. "Completely. You won't even be listed as a witness publicly." Still, I said nothing. A week after the trial, my parents called. Not to apologize, not to explain, just to say, "She's broken, Lena. You didn't have to let them take her." I sat in silence, then finally said, "You broke her long before I did." I hung up, blocked them, erased the number from every contact list I owned. That night, Daniel and I sat on the back porch in silence. The sky was soft and dark, filled with stars we hadn't noticed in weeks. "You did the right thing," he said. "I don't feel like it. That's how you know it mattered." He held my hand. Inside, Benny barked at a moth and fell over. We laughed for the first time in months. I never heard from Kayla again. Sometimes I wonder if she changed, if prison humbled her or hardened her, but I no longer feel responsible for the answer. That version of Mitha, one who cleaned up the mess, took the fall, held the family together by the fraying edge of silence. She's gone, and in her place is someone who finally said, "No more."